There are a lot of things changing in college football, but one thing that remains the same is the Buckeyes' mission in 2024.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to a Monday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day here on Monday, September 16th in the year 2024. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast, and today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Go to 5hourenergy.com and use promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. College football is one of those sports that is constantly changing. Conference realignment is normally an off-season topic. Well, we even got it this year as there are 4 more schools joining the Pac-12. There are rumors and maybe even sources that are confirming that Billy Napier will be kicked up out of Gainesville, Florida. Constant changes with coaches, constant changes with the rules, with teams moving conferences. But one thing that hasn't changed this year is the Buckeyes' mission in 2024. Y'all, it's still natty or bust. And the mission is still to go out there and win a national championship and not busted this year. Ohio State has a great opportunity this week to remind everybody, even though they didn't play last week, people kind of said, oh, looking at Georgia, 1-point winner for Kentucky, Texas, number 1 team in the country. They're looking at all these schools around here. I hear more noise about Tennessee and more noise about Ole Miss. Ohio State's number 3 in both polls, the coaches poll and the AP poll, which is cool. Like, those are polls. Those are great. But what's better is what Ohio State has done on the field. And what they have done on the field so far this year is dominate, and they have an opportunity to dominate another opponent this weekend in Marshall. And with that in mind, that's what you got to do if you want to keep making strides to win the Natty this year. That's the ultimate goal. And no matter if they say Natty or bust in the offseason or not, everyone knows that the standard at Ohio State is different. Tuscaloosa down there, their standard is different. There aren't many schools around the country that have the standard that is currently set at Ohio State. And Ohio State's goals every single year: beat Michigan, win the conference, win the national championship. And when you're not accomplishing those goals, maybe you got to tweak some things or change some things up. And we've seen that so far this year. In the offseason, there were some changes, some things that were a little bit different. There were coaches brought in, coaches that were let go. And what do we find? Right now, so far at this point in the season, the Buckeyes have dominated 2 straight opponents. And coming off of an off week, we talked about it last week, how there was a time period in 2022. Buckeyes came after the off week. First 6 games, the Buckeyes feel of the team was different than the last 6 games in the regular season. Now, the difference is you got 2 games in, you got an off week, you got 4 more games and another off week. So the feeling that people should have, that we want, all of us, myself included, we all want the Buckeyes to play the next 4 games, really the rest of the games this season, the same way they played the first 2. And if you want to narrow it down a little bit further, have that same mindset, have that same energy that you had against Western Michigan, and just go out there and do what you need to do. Alter the game plan offensively and defensively. You can have a fresh new game plan each week if you need to, because of the caliber of athlete that you have on your team, from the interior of both lines to the skill position on offense to the linebackers and the members of the secondary on defense. The Buckeyes have a luxury to be able to change things up consistently. And if you do that, if you make a Marshall-specific game plan, okay, Marshall's not ready. And then you have an Iowa-specific game plan. It is not so much Iowa-specific as what's going to happen every single week, but you can literally do some things completely different against Iowa that you haven't done at all the previous 3 games. Why? Well, previous 4 games, because that's after Michigan State. Why? Because you have players that can do it. And if you start now focusing on those things and figuring things out, then later on in the season, especially in the playoff, what do you have? A team that has been able to adjust on the fly, a team that is coachable, a team that can make adjustments in game at the drop of a hat. And that's a formula that a lot of schools around the country cannot handle. Now, I'm not going to sit up here and say that Ohio State deserves to be the number 1 team in the country, because truly right now, I don't even care about the polls. I truly don't. you heard me before the season started, made a comment about preseason polls really shouldn't be a thing. How are you gonna make a poll when anybody played a game? Like, I'm not trying to be like that guy that's just trying to go out here and just beat this remove preseason poll drum, but that's a legitimate conversation that should be had. Why are we making polls when ain't nobody played a game? Okay, played a few games, things moved around a little bit. Well, so far this year, should the polls really gauge how we view teams? No. What should gauge how we view teams is what they're doing on the field. And what Ohio State has done so far is dominate. And that's what we should expect from them against Marshall this week. And the spread is massive. It's a massive, massive spread. Via our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook, the Buckeyes are currently 39.5-point favorites. If those of you right now watching on the YouTube see that graphic right in front of you, the over-under is currently set at 51.5. I have not set my score prediction just yet. Just know that it's going to be another massive, massive blowout because Ohio State with Marshall, they got some good players on the team. That should not mean that Ohio State should not go out there and have this, we're going to dominate you performance, this mindset. And it should be the same thing against Michigan State, against Iowa, against Oregon, no matter who it is. And Oregon played better this past weekend against Oregon State. Maybe they needed a rivalry game, the internal civil war to kind of get them back on track. I'm not sure. But Ohio State, doesn't matter who they're playing, should have this mindset that we see what you do. We respect what your game is. We are going to dominate you because they can. Yeah, it starts with Will Howard. I think Will Howard will come out this weekend and just do his job. Not trying to do too much, not do too little, but simply just do his job and realize he has talent all around him that makes his job so easy. Donovan Jackson is expected to start this weekend at left guard. And it's Monday. I know, unfortunately, setbacks can happen between now and kickoff on Saturday afternoon at high noon. I know that can happen. We all hope it does not, because I want to see Donovan Jackson out there on the field. The interesting thing is now you've currently got 7 offensive linemen, because he got a Hinsman who didn't start, who's not starting this year, but he's a starting caliber guy. Austin Servold started the first 2 games. He's a starting caliber guy. You legitimately have 7 offensive linemen, which allows you more versatility with any team. Not saying you need to show off your versatility against Marshall, but if you decide to do that down the road, it wouldn't shock me if Hinsman comes in for a hot minute, or if Servold comes in for a hot minute, or one of them puts on an eligible player number and goes out there for a hot minute to kind of show a different wrinkle, to show something different. Why? Because Ohio State can do that. And we're going to see different wrinkles and different things new on defense and offense as the Buckeyes strive to accomplish their mission this year, which is to win the national championship. Ryan Day has been grinding and working and pushing for this moment, for this season. And honestly, the opportunity is here. It's a long road to get there. Coming off an off week, it's easy to lose focus. It's easy to get the mission out of your mind, or to know the mission, but to get distracted. Avoid all the distractions. Keep the noise away from you. And just keep your eyes on the mission, which is the Buckeyes winning the Natty in 2024. One player the Buckeyes will need to play big all year long for them to accomplish their mission this year is Ty Hamilton. And Ryan Day made a big statement about Ty Hamilton, who has been playing phenomenal ball this year. This episode is brought to you by 5-Hour Energy. Want to get in shape but having trouble staying motivated? Make 5-Hour Energy shots part of your lifestyle and get the energy boost you need to get fit. We all know you sometimes do not want to go to the gym. Take a 5-Hour Energy shot to give you the feeling and alertness so you can get to the gym. With 0 sugar and a convenient portable size, it's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. The 5-Hour Energy website has flavors galore, like watermelon, tropical burst, grape, berry, and more. On the site, you even have the option to build your own 12-pack or even 24-pack. You choose the flavors, and it is delivered right to your door. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that is the number 5hourenergy.com, and get some 5-Hour Energy product today. you can use my promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. We are all looking at different Ohio State players and what they have done so far, trying to assess what they might do, not just this week after an off week, but going forward throughout the rest of the season. Well, Howard's going to get a lot of attention. We're going to talk more about Judkins and Henderson later on this week, and Chip Kelly, and talk more about the receivers and the guys on defense as well. Cannot forget them. We're going to talk more about a lot of players this week and just what their mindset needs to be or how they can impact Ohio State, especially this weekend against Marshall. And one player that graded out as a 96% performance against Western Michigan is Ty Hamilton. And if he keeps playing like he currently is, Ryan Day believes he's a all Big Ten caliber player. And I agree with him. Ty Hamilton's one of those guys, and he announced that he is staying at Ohio State for another year, for his 5th year. Yo, I got excited. Now, I didn't expect him to truly leave, but the thought is always there. If you're there for a 4th year and you're not really sure, you can start, but maybe you should transfer somewhere else and to get a little bit more playing time or just a different scene. We all know how, things happen. And I would not have been upset if he had decided to leave and go somewhere else. But keep this in mind. I think I mentioned this last week about Ty Hamilton. Devon Hamilton, his brother, during his final year in Columbus, was his best year at Ohio State. And honestly, helped him propel to get into the National Football League and has a pretty decent career in the NFL as well. Well, so far this year, Ty Hamilton through 2 games has 8 tackles, a half tackle for loss, and a half sack. Last year, Ty Hamilton had 38 tackles, 4.5 TFLs, and 2 sacks. So the numbers are there, but he's now, I believe, controlling things a little bit differently and a whole lot better, more consistently than he did a year ago. Some of that stuff will not show up in the stat sheet, but the stuff that does is huge, and the things that don't show up are even better. And when you're a D tackle, a lot of your work is not going to show up in the stat sheet, and that's okay. I think it's a big reason why Ryan Day said he is a all Big Ten caliber player. Here's Ryan Day specifically, Jim Knowles specifically, talking about Ty Hamilton and what Ty Hamilton brings to the Buckeyes defense. Quote, he's been making an impact since I've been here, but he has developed into a dominant player. He's a guy that can control the interior of the line of scrimmage, and that's a big deal. I've always said when your defensive tackles make tackles, it allows you to do other things in coverage. And how many people you commit down to the box. Ty is quiet, but he's like a cold-blooded gentleman. He really is a force that I think is sometimes maybe difficult to see, but when you watch the tape, he is knocking people back and really just creating some difficult situations for the offense, end quote. A little bit of a lengthier statement from Jim Knowles, but we all believe that what he is saying is true. Ty Hamilton at that nose tackle position is making noise. And I watched the Colts on Sunday. We watched football on Saturday. We've watched the football for a long time. Now, if it's Anthony Richardson for the Colts, who's a novice at the quarterback position in the National Football League, or if it is a seasoned vet in Tom Brady or Peyton Manning, one thing quarterbacks cannot stand is pressure right in their face. And when it comes to Ty Hamilton, one thing he is doing with that center is pushing that bad boy back right into the quarterback's face. And think about if you were a quarterback, and you love it. Don't matter if it's Little League, Pop Warner, or if it's in the NFL. Let's just use our imaginations for a little bit. You're a quarterback, and you know the offense you're using. You know the coaches. You know the situation that the coach wants you to kind of change stuff in. And so you know your job. You know what you're supposed to be doing. But the one thing you can't stand, don't make me get off schedule. Don't make me change my footwork. Don't make me get off my spot. But also don't come right in my face. Because at the snap of the ball, a second and a half later, bam, homie's right in your lap. He's right in your space, right in your bubble every time. That's going to be very, very hard for you to get over. And also it's going to cause a lot of frustration because you can't do your job when the guys up in front of you keep applying pressure right in front of you. Here's something a little bit simpler. I hope we have this show here Monday through Friday. We got a live postcast after games. I'm going to have another show coming up on Saturday mornings as well, a little bit of a shorter game day preview style of show. And one thing while I am hosting shows here, I think I did this on the Big Ten Squad show that comes out on Thursday evenings. There was literally a fly flying around while I was doing the show. And I don't know where the fly came from. We don't really have flies in our home, but there was a fly. And I found myself not when I was speaking, or a lot of times when I wasn't. Simply, if you're watching the YouTube right now, you're seeing me like doing this number, like swatting and swiping, and I'm sitting here thinking, man, just going somewhere. Just get out of here. Think about you at your job, or think about you doing anything. If somebody is consistently coming up to you, walking up to you, getting right in your face, it's going to be a little annoying. It doesn't matter how old you are, where you are, what you're doing. If somebody keeps coming up and getting in your face or getting in your bubble, and you're trying to be like, look, man, no, this ain't the time. We can have this conversation, but we got to have it later. Or, hey, I don't want you in my personal space at all. Just get your cell phone away from me. That's really annoying. And that's just more everyday life. If you are a quarterback in college, and you are trying to get your job done, to move the ball and to move the offense down the field to score, one of the things you don't want is that guy right in your face. And I use that analogy between us and our everyday lives to what a quarterback is dealing with, because the quarterback's clock is nowhere near what we're dealing, nowhere near our clock. Some people may allow somebody in their space for a little bit longer. Hey, that internal clock of a quarterback, if it's going too long, it's bad news bears, baby, and it's not going to be good for anybody involved on that offense. But Ty Hamilton's that kind of guy. He's that kind of disruptor. He's that kind of controller. He's kind of that quiet guy, as Jim Knowles said, but also that guy is getting stuff done. And think about how great it would be for Ty Hamilton to end his Ohio State career as an all Big Ten guy during his final year in Columbus. Think about adding that to your resume as you go off to the NFL, your pro day, hoping and believing he would get a invite to the NFL Combine. All of those things there, all those things are great. Adding that to your resume speaks volumes about you as a player. So here's the one thing that I think helps him and maybe hurts him, which should hurt him, but y'all people are crazy because this stuff's voted on by humans. He's on Ohio State's defense. Ohio State's defense is going to have all Big Ten players, Tyleik Williams, Jack Sawyer, and Tuimoloau automatically on the D-line. My gut tells me Cody Simon is probably going to be one. Sonny Styles might. It's a little early. He's played good ball so far, but a little early. It's also 18 teams, so you can't put the whole Ohio State defense on the entire list of all Big Ten players and Big Ten teams. But, I mean, it could happen. Then you know some of the secondary. So there could be a lot of voters out there saying, well, we can't put Ohio State's entire defense on and vote them as all Big Ten players. So somebody got to be left out just because I'm a human and I don't want to be that guy. Well, that could be Ty Hamilton. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. If he earns it, I don't care what team he's on. I don't care what teams players are around him. If he has earned the respect and the honor to be named an all Big Ten player, don't look at no other obstacles or any other things that could be a narrative for you to say, oh, this is why I didn't do it. Vote him in. That's all I got to say. I also got something to say about Ohio State's recruiting tool that I have noticed early on this season, and it could speak volumes about what Justin Fry does while recruiting players in the 2025 recruiting class. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Man, that's so good. Way too good to not say a second time. Right now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. So Ohio State on the recruiting trail, they've done a lot of things great. Currently have the #1 overall recruiting class in the 2025 cycle. There's also been some things that have been a few hiccups along the way. Receiver recruiting is great. Got a commitment recently from Phillip Bell that came, I believe, the evening around 9 or 10 p.m. Eastern time of Ohio State's first one of the season over Akron. There's also been some struggles. You can't win them all. You can't be the school that just hits on every single recruit. There's been some frustration with the Buckeyes O-line recruiting. But the way the O-line is played right now, I do believe is going to boost the O-line recruiting, and it could speak volumes about how Ohio State recruits players throughout this cycle in 2025. Because one thing we know right now about the cycle, recruiting isn't done. You're still pursuing. You are still working. You are still grinding to secure players signing on the dotted line on the National Signing Day, signing their national letter of intent, from your quarterback, Octavia St. Clair, all the way down to the 3-star recruit that's the lowest rated player in the cycle, in the class for Ohio State. You're working to secure a signed commitment from everyone. In Ohio State right now, when it comes to O-line recruiting, yeah, they got a commitment recently from Javen McFadden. There's only 3 O-line commits right now. Carter Lowe is one of them. He is a youngster from Toledo, Ohio. Also, shout out to Toledo recently. They went down to Mississippi State and smacked them down there. It was really good to see Toledo put the hurry on him. And then also Jake Cook, who's from Westerville, Ohio, Westerville North High School. He's the other O-line commitment there. Those 3 are the only O-line commitments. One thing Brian Smith and I said during one of our final recruiting shows with Brian, or the latest recruiting show with Brian, was that the recruiting tool Ohio State has right now is, if they continue to play better and develop players this year and put more guys in the NFL, that's a massive recruiting tool for Ohio State. The one thing about the NFL for this cycle is the NFL draft is after National Signing Day. It's actually after spring practice. So you realistically would think that the guys that are trying to look at Ohio State to maybe commit there, they're watching how Justin Fry's guys are playing this year. They're watching that unit from Simmons to Fryer and the 3 guys in the middle. They're watching all of them saying, are guys developing? Are guys playing better than they did a year ago? Are the newcomers quickly being acclimated and doing the things that are being asked of them? And are they exceeding expectations while in the scarlet and gray? I think all of those things are realistic questions that if I'm a high school recruit, I'm asking myself about these players right now, because you're considering going to Ohio State. Or maybe you're considering flipping to Ohio State. Or maybe you know somebody that's on your team that's an offensive lineman that is thinking about going to Ohio State, but maybe not in this cycle, but in 2026, maybe 2027, or maybe even a really youngster in 2028. Maybe you're someone like that is saying, we know Justin Fry's had some issues in recruiting. We know that it's hard for Ohio State to recruit elite players outside of the state of Ohio. That's cool. That doesn't mean that I will not look at them and say, regardless of the troubles Ohio State has had, what they have done so far this season is a major recruiting tool for the Buckeyes with the offensive linemen. It wouldn't shock me if on the early National Signing Day, I believe it's a few days prior to the conference championship game kicking off, that the Buckeyes had one more guy commit or had 4 signed that day. Maybe it's a signing day flip, which, hey, I'm here for. I'm here for the chaos in that sense. Not here for the chaos if a guy flips from Ohio State, which is probably going to happen. It's just the nature of the beast. But if a guy wants to flip from going from another school to Ohio State on National Signing Day, cool. Let's make that bad boy happen. But that's what might actually happen. You might not get anybody to flip right now. You might not get anybody to change their mind right now. You may not get anybody to give a verbal commit right now, and that's okay. O-line recruiting is different than probably recruiting any other position. One, offensive linemen want to stay home, man. They are not the guys that want to go far away from home. We talk about guys in South Florida and how Ohio State does a phenomenal job of recruiting them and how their mindset is different, though. Like Jeremiah Smith is a part of that. I believe Cardinal Tate's from Chicago. I think Brandon Ennis is a guy that was playing with Jeremiah Smith down there on South Florida Express at 7-on-7 squad. If you go down there and watch them, I've been to high school football games, a couple of them down in Florida, not a whole lot. I used to live in Florida, and I'm a big high school football fan, as many of you know. I did not go to many high school football games down in Florida, and that's really weird for me to say right now because high school football, man, I've been loving this thing and watching this thing almost religiously for 20 years, and that's dating back to, wow, that sounds, yeah, for about 20 years now. The guys down there have a different mindset. It's just how they are. It's just the makeup of them as humans. Not a bad thing. It's just a different mindset. Well, offensive linemen do too. If they don't want to go far away from home, that's cool. David Sanders Jr. from, I believe, North Carolina, committed to Tennessee. Do I think Tennessee develops and puts more offensive linemen into the NFL than Ohio State? No. Do I understand the appeal of David Sanders Jr. to go to Tennessee? Because they do a good job of recruiting and developing offensive linemen. Not better than Ohio State's, but I understand it. But also geographically, it's easier and quicker for his mama to go from home to Tennessee and Knoxville to watch her baby play. I understand that. And that's kind of what we have to remember about offensive linemen. The process is going to be slower, and a lot of them don't want to go far from home. But a lot of them also want to see, just like a lot of guys do, what have you done for your guys lately? The flip side of that, or the next thing is, okay, we see what you have done for your guys lately. How do I fit into that plan so I know what you can do for me in the future? It's present day and the past years and also future. Well, as any recruit, but also offensive lineman, you got to deal with the mindset. And maybe with it being so hard to recruit guys outside of the state of Ohio, what we're seeing this year is a massive recruiting tool. You're starting 2 new guys that have been in your program for a while. One guy didn't play a snap last year, starting left guard, and did a great job during his first 2 starts in his Buckeye career. Shabola doing a great job as well. Seth McLaughlin transferring in. Oh, he fits in well. So even if I'm an O-line guy that's going to go to the portal, man, look, Ohio State can recruit the high school guys, can recruit the guys in the portal, and they have film to see how Ohio State's going to use those guys, how they use them this year. That is an added advantage that Ohio State has right now. And if they use this thing to their to take advantage of it, man, the Buckeyes honestly get in this cycle with 5 guys. So that's a bigger number than I would have thought a couple weeks ago. But it's a reality. They get in this cycle with 5 guys from the high school side committed to Ohio State. And if they get a guy in the portal on the offensive line, that wouldn't shock me either. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On College Football. From NIL deals to never-ending conference realignment rumors. There ain't rumors. The Pac-12 just got bigger. Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron. Find Locked On College Football on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter at JSteven07. Also follow the show on Twitter as well at LO Buckeyes. That's correct, at LO Buckeyes. Started a new show Twitter page, also on the Instagram at Locked On Buckeyes as well. Send every email to jstevens317 at gmail.com. Buckeye fans, we're out of here on a Monday. It's game week. We'll see you next time.